Welcome to another Thursday with RamDev. And I'd like to talk about the relationship between devotion, compassion for yourself, and compassion for other people. Over the years, I've talked about these three things separately. I've heard a lot of other people talk about these three things separately. And I've really began to see how, particularly for Westerners, it's very important to see how they're interrelated, how they're connected. And it makes it very difficult if we're trying to separate them and do them one at a time. In Tibetan Buddhism, they say, first devotion, then compassion. Devotion is easier than compassion because devotion is opening your heart to that which is love, the guru, the teaching, awareness itself, the easiest thing to love, the embodiment of love. Whereas compassion is the most difficult thing to love because you're opening your heart to suffering. Okay, but what I've been feeling, and I go back to remembering the time I was with Maharaji, for instance, feelings of such great devotion, but there was so much feeling of inadequacy that I felt like I was this sieve and I was dying of thirst and he was pouring nectar into me and it was just running through me down onto the ground. I wasn't able to really fully experience the devotion in an ongoing way because of my inadequacy. I needed to develop self-compassion for the part of me that didn't feel devotion. And devotion is really what's needed to have intimacy with the teacher or intimacy with the teaching. But can we bear this intimacy? Because this intimacy really depends on the annihilation of the ego. If I'm really going to love God, if I'm going to die into love, then all my self-clinging, all my self-cherishing has to begin to fall away. So can we trust both the pain and the light? Can we create this upward spiral where we go into devotion and we uncover places of inadequacy and we feel compassion for that? And then we feel more devotion, then we feel more compassion, rather than what I see happening so often, which is people opening into devotion and then they feel inadequate or like, I'm a lousy meditator, I'm a lousy devotee, because I don't feel as much devotion now as I did at the retreat or when I was chanting with Krishnadas or whatever it might happen to be, right? That we compare ourselves because we're practicing from the standpoint of I'm inadequate and I needed to get to a better place, as opposed to practicing from a place of fullness, that I trust that which I'm devoted to. And if I do get caught a little bit here and there, I can have compassion for that, and that will just deepen my devotion. And as devotion deepens, then it can also widen into seeing God everywhere. When Maharaji was asked, what's the best form to worship God? He said, every form, not just the pictures on your puja table, but all the deities and all the people. That you're the deity and I'm the deity and your neighbor is your deity. The person you don't like is the deity, right? Bringing devotion into a more widening way, having a compassion that's not only for self, but for all beings. So we can begin to notice the relationship in our lives with devotion, compassion for others, compassion for ourselves in a way that really feeds each other and lets us surrender in a much more fluid way into wholeness. I hope this works for you. I've enjoyed looking at this, and I send you all the best. So much love.